Good morning, everyone. My name is State Representative Brad Halbrook. I represent the 102nd District, and I live in Shelbyville. Today, I'm here with my colleagues to discuss the capital bill that's coming before us, the tax increases that are potential, the fee increases, and President Trump's infrastructure plan. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, Brad. I'm Blaine Wilhire, District 107, Effingham to Centralia, kind of south central Illinois. I'll be really brief. Infrastructure is important. It's very important. It's vitally important for economic growth. It's important for public safety. But it's something the state of Illinois has not prioritized, and that's why we're in a situation that we're in right now. If this was a priority, we would be putting money in our budget every year for this stuff, but we can't because we don't deal with the real issues in Illinois. You know, until we deal with the real issues, the pension crisis, the Medicaid crisis, education funding, the sheer volume of government, we're not going to be able to prioritize this stuff. And, you know, frankly, I think that we need a system in place in the state of Illinois that you know, has a process that ranks these jobs based on several objective factors. You know, does it grow the economy, things of that nature. I don't trust Springfield politicians to not put political priorities over the actual priorities. You know, so until we get some of that stuff going here, and you know, obviously the federal government, there's a huge infrastructure possibility on the table there. It would be irresponsible for the state of Illinois to go forward and put all of this money out here, money that we literally do not have. Most of it raised through tax increases on middle-class families. You know, when President Trump is advocating putting all of this money into infrastructure right now. So. Thank you, and we'll be happy to take questions.
Good morning. I'm Dan Calkins from the 101st. I live in Decatur. My district covers parts of Macon County, DeWitt County, Piatt County. I get part of McLean and Champaign County. We're here today to talk about the irresponsible spending of this government. You know, we're being talked to about a tax increase to fund an infrastructure plan that we don't even know. On the other hand, what we're seeing from Washington in the Trump administration is proposing a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. Now, if we are going to have a huge infrastructure plan from the federal government, and I truly believe that that's going to happen, why are we taking this opportunity to raise taxes on the ordinary people of this state? The people of downstate particularly are going to suffer from this. You know, I care deeply about Illinois. I care deeply about the people in my House district that this is going to affect. When we raise taxes on gasoline and licenses and license plate registrations dramatically, and that's what's being proposed, we are going to make the most vulnerable suffer, the middle class. You know, we hear this every day from our friends across the aisle. We're doing this to protect the middle class. We want to protect the middle class. And then they turn around and propose taxes that are going to affect the middle class. Yes, we need our infrastructure improved. You know, Illinois is going to have about a $7 billion infusion into our general revenue fund, and we can't prioritize properly what we need to do with that money. Instead of starting new programs, instead of spending money on social things that don't, let me correct that. Instead of spending money on new programs that we can't afford, we should be focusing on the things that are important. You know, I tell people all the time, show me your budget and I'll tell you what your priorities are. We fail to properly budget for infrastructure in this state. We have the money. It's readily available. We need to spend it where we need it, and not on politically connected improvements and road projects and things that happen in members' districts. We need that money adequately allocated, fairly, all across this state. So we're here today to talk about this because we believe that we're going to see a massive infusion of money from the federal government. You know, President Trump has already proposed it. I'm sure that the two parties will get together, and then let's see what the state of Illinois needs to do.
Thank you very much for coming today. My name is Chris Miller, and I represent the 110th District, which is right along the Wabash River. And I know that I'm a farmer by profession, and I know that as a farmer that we grow things, we solve problems, and we fix things that are broken. And there's one thing that we do annually is we do maintenance. We do maintenance on our equipment to make sure it runs properly. And from my understanding, it's been almost 10 years since we've had a capital bill to address the annual needs of the state, and what could have been a small problem has become this big monster. I think it's important to understand history to see where we've been so we know clearly where we are going so we don't repeat the same mistakes of the past. And I know in 2011 we were told by bureaucrats that if we just raise taxes that it's going to fix everything, there's going to be plenty of money. And one thing that we saw as we raised taxes, we took $3.6 billion out of private citizens' hands and put it in the hands of bureaucrats. And the purpose was not to expand program. It was not to brand new programs. It was only to pay old bills and deal with structural deficits. And we know by history what has happened. We can see very clearly. Again, in 2017, they said if we just raise taxes 32%, everything's going to be great. Well, I know that in my district, in the 110th, that they took almost $60 million out of the citizens of the 110th district. And as far as I can tell, the roads are still in bad repair, the bridges are bad, the infrastructure is awful. And one thing that I've been surprised being over here in Springfield for a brief time is the lack of simple understanding of simple math and simple economics by the people that have been here long enough that they should understand that. And what we have here in Illinois, when we ask the taxpayers to give more money and everything's going to be great, they're going to look at what's happened in history, and they're going to give us the old hairy eyeball because they know that this isn't, once again, going to fix the problem. But I've been accused of being negative all the time, and what I want to do is give you some good news that it is possible for state government to be responsible with the money we send them. But the first thing that happens is everything rises and falls in leadership. And leadership has to take the lead in reforming pensions. We have an unsustainable pension liability. You cannot pay 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500% on an investment and have the math ever work. And until we address that problem, the fiscal problems of the state of Illinois will not go away. There are 55 reform-minded people that have refused to take the pension because they know that that's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. Another thing that we need to do in regard to leadership is we need to lead the charge for term limits. We need to lead the charge for workmen's compensation reform. We need to cap real estate tax at 1%. We need to be prioritizing funding. If it's worth having, then we need to fund it. And there's no need for this huge expansion of taxes upon the citizens of the state of Illinois. The lobbyists need to be gone. The bought and paid for politicians and the dark money needs to end. Fair maps need to be drawn. And if we pursue and push those types of reform, then eventually the state of Illinois will get on solid footing. And right now, what we're facing is a massive capital bill that's going to take more money out of the citizens of the state of Illinois. President Trump is calling for a $2 trillion infrastructure plan that could bring potentially $400 billion into the state of Illinois. And if we have that kind of money, we can fix everything that is broken right now. The governor's plan is peanuts compared to what Donald J. Trump has proposed for the citizens of Illinois. The governor and the leaders in the House and the Senate should put their bipartisan difference apart and work together with the White House to get federal infrastructure, the federal infrastructure plan passed and implemented. Thank you.
So I'm Allen Skillicorn from the 66th District. There is a difference between myself and my gentleman with me. I live in far north eastern Illinois, where the other gentlemen live in central and southern Illinois. And I've only been here 3 years. But I've been talking about transformative structural reforms since I arrived here. There is a giant elephant in this room. And that elephant is the one thing that President Donald J. Trump can agree with the congressional Democrats with. And that is the need for an infrastructure plan. Now, he has proposed a $2 trillion infrastructure plan. Simple mathematics tells me that Illinois could be on the receiving end of $400 billion because of this infrastructure program. Frankly, we have the 6th largest state and we have the 5th largest GDP in the nation. I think we should get something bigger than that. Frankly, I think we should put pressure on our congressional delegation to get that done for us. What we shouldn't be doing excuse me, is rushing into a $40 billion tax hike, taking money out of our economy, taking money out of people's pockets, taking money out of the middle class, and throwing it in to special interests that just want to pad their wallets. This is something that we should move forward with. And I will note, Governor Pritzker, he is on the record of being anti-Trump. Senator Sandoval, chairman of the Transportation Committee, anti-Trump. The minority chairman in the Senate Transportation Committee is a never-Trumper. Ladies and gentlemen, this $40 billion tax hike is anti-Donald J. Trump. No Republican should support this. No Republican should be for doubling the gas tax, should be additional fees, and adding all these taxes. And I repeat that, no Republican should be on this bill. This is regressive, and this is anti the people of Illinois. You know, yesterday we just debated a graduated tax hike, okay? And one of the talking points is that it was only going to tax the rich. Well, gas tax taxes the poor. It's very regressive. The gentlemen around me, their counties will suffer. They are in commuter counties. They are commuting back and forth to work, long distances. The people who ride mass transit, the people who have short commutes, they aren't going to feel the pinch of this tax hike. But the people who live in bedroom communities that commute to work are going to feel this tax hike, and it's significant. So I want to reiterate that this tax hike and this infrastructure plan is simply an anti-Trump move. It would behoove our state and our leadership to wait on that infrastructure plan. Let's just compare it. A $40 billion tax hike here in Illinois to sell the bonds for this infrastructure plan, right? Takes money out of our economy, takes money out of the working class, takes money out of our constituents' pockets. Where if the federal government comes in with this, it could be a $400 billion windfall. If we move forward to this now, how can we go to Washington, D.C. and say, we absolutely need every dollar we can? Because we can't say that, because we moved ahead without them. So this is a situation where we need teamwork. We need to call on our congressional delegation to do their jobs and deliver the resources that we need. And infrastructure is important, people. You know, without infrastructure, how do we get beyond this current quagmire we're in? Without infrastructure, how do we do the economic development? We need to get products to market. We have great resources here in Illinois. We have fabulous farms. We've got the Mississippi River. We've got the railroads. We've got I-80 running through our state. We have so many things working for us. Let's be patient. Let's pump the brakes and call on our congressional delegation to bring home some of this infrastructure money instead of us charging ahead anti-Trump, anti-Washington, D.C., anti-infrastructure. And I'll open this up for questions.
You guys say stop the gas tax. How's the federal government going to generate $400 billion for Illinois?
And that's one of the details they're working out. But frankly, that's shared over 50 states, not just the people, only the sole people of our state.
And then looks like things are deadlocked in Washington. The president saying can't legislate and investigate at the same time. Say they don't get anything done until after the 2020 election, which is unimaginable. possibility. Can Illinois wait?
The answer to that is easy. How many presidents have gotten done what Donald J. Trump has done? We're on a winning streak in the United States, and we don't trust him to get this done. I mean, he has fixed some of our trade. He's lowered taxes. Our economy's booming. If we can't wait for him to deliver this, we don't trust the president.
Wouldn't you ask Nancy Pelosi to get this done?
We always have to work together, and frankly, who else is better capable of doing that? In his past, he donated to Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats.
Is there a deadline you're willing to wait for to say, okay, well, now we've waited long enough, now Illinois should go on its own because the feds are clearly not coming through?
I could say the 2020 election, but frankly, this Governor Pritzker's plan is full of pork. I mean, it doesn't address the constant maintenance we need. It's just full of pork, and we have to consider what's going forward. But do you think the rest of the nation can wait either?
What conversations have any of you guys had with the congressional delegation, be it Senator Durbin, Duckworth, or any of your congressional members?
Yes, Congressman Rodney Davis is my congressman for our district, and I think part of yours. And I've reached out to his office. He'll be back. We plan to have conversations with him. I believe that he's on board, but until I have an opportunity to sit down with Congressman Davis face to face, I don't want to speak for his position. But I hope that he would support an infrastructure plan. It may not be as ambitious as President Trump has proposed, but even if it's half of that, it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive, and it will help revitalize the infrastructure of this country, and it will have a significant impact on Illinois. We have two very active state senators. So you talked about Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party. So we hope that our two state senators will be on board with this as well.
Representative Calkins, you said Illinois has the money for this, just isn't spending it. So to be clear, are you guys advocating for a plan to move funds from somewhere else to infrastructure in Illinois, or just wait on?
Well, this is the issue of priorities, and we all talk about infrastructure being a priority. We had a windfall, over $1 billion windfall in April. I mean, we heard from the comptroller, Ms. Mendoza, that we had over $1 billion came in April from unexpected tax revenue. And where's that money been put?
Close the budget deficit from the last operating budget?
And the next year's $800 million projected. And the next year, I mean, this money is not being. We say we have priorities, and we do. What we've seen and what we've heard from this infrastructure bill it's onerous. It's going to put a huge burden on the people of my district. Some of the people in my district have to drive 25, 30 miles just to get to a pharmacy, to get to a doctor's appointment, and to go to work. We have people that commute to ADM and Tate & Lyle and the Cat plant in Decatur that come from 25, 30 miles away. Raise their gas tax, double their gas tax, and see what happens.
Aside from that, though,
Right now, I think that what we're, or at least what I'm trying to say is we don't have the money right now. I mean, in the entirety of the budget, yeah, we would have it, but we've got so much money that's tied up in this mandated spending on the pensions and on the Medicaid and on the sheer volume of government and all that stuff that I talked about before. And the point is, until you deal with those issues, until the governor's office and the legislature starts dealing with those issues, the major cost drivers, we're not going to have the money. Illinois generates a lot of revenue. We always have. We've got a huge economy, and there's a huge opportunity there. We should be taking advantage of a growing national economy. What did President Trump do? He cut taxes, he slashed regulations, the economy responded. If we even did half of that here in the state of Illinois, if we worked on a workers' comp system, if we just got in the middle of the pack on some of these regulatory burdens, our economy would flourish and we would be able to fund this kind of stuff. But until that stuff happens, until we start talking about the big issues in Springfield, nothing is going to change. We're always going to be coming back to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers are maxed out in the state of Illinois.
Well, last question, because we got to get running caucus.
Universities and others are gonna be here asking for, horizontal, construction. What would be your message to, those public works projects, that they're gonna be, I guess, supporting gas tax hikes or whatever kind of fee increases, to pay for such, construction?
And you mentioned universities? Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that Illinois is third in the nation of funding higher education. Third in the nation. We already fund higher education, more than, all of our regional peers. We also have the highest tuition costs. It is basically the structural problems of Illinois that have led to this. It is mismanagement by our universities, mismanagement by our state. I'd like to add that I did not vote for this non-balanced budget. If we didn't have this windfall of money, this budget would still have a gaping budget hole. And even though we had all this revenue because of the Trump tax cuts, basically that revenue goes into a budget that was never balanced. And I think that's one thing that we're very clear about, that all of us agree that that budget was not balanced. And we're probably the only people talking about the truth in that situation, is that the majority of people, bipartisan I might add, voted for a non-balanced budget. And that's the source of our problems. We haven't had a real balanced budget in 20 years. Now, we might get there this year, but it's not because of the hard work we've done up there. It's because of the hard work done in Washington, D.C. We have to go to caucus, but thank you for joining us.